Ethan wiped the sweat from his forehead as he crouched over the console in the colony's energy control room. The violet sky outside was darkening, and the twin moons cast long shadows across the metallic structures of New Aegis, the frontier planet. Life on this planet was never easy, but for Ethan, working late at night in the hum of machines had become normal. It was quiet, and the rhythm of the generators made him feel almost calm, until tonight felt different. He could not shake a sense of anticipation, as if something unseen was about to arrive. He adjusted the settings on the shield stabilizers, his fingers moving with practiced precision. These shields protected the colony from meteor storms, hostile wildlife, and anything else that could threaten the human settlers. The colony was still young, and even small errors could cause catastrophic damage. Ethan's work was critical, and he took pride in knowing that people's lives depended on his skills. Still, he paused, noticing a flicker on the external monitors, a movement near the outer gates. It was unusual, especially at this hour. Only a few patrol drones were scheduled to pass this area tonight. Ethan frowned. He tapped into the cameras and zoomed in. His eyes widened slightly. A figure was standing at the gate, barefoot, her robe flowing in the soft wind. There was something about her that seemed impossible, almost unreal. She moved with grace, her presence commanding, yet quiet. She looked directly at the camera, and for a moment it felt as if she was looking straight at him. Ethan's heart skipped. She did not speak, did not gesture, just stood there, watching. Then slowly, she started moving toward the colony. Curiosity and caution battled within him. The colony had protocols for strangers, and yet something about her made him hesitate. He activated the external intercom, but before he could speak, she reached the main entrance of the control room. The door opened as if expecting her, and she stepped inside. Ethan took an instinctive step back, surprised by the silence that seemed to follow her. She was not tall by alien standards, but her presence made her seem much larger. Her eyes held a depth he could not understand, and for a moment he thought he could see the stars reflected in them. Without a word, she let her robe fall slightly, revealing a strange, almost regal attire beneath. Ethan's mind raced, but he did not feel threatened. There was power in her stance, yet also a sense of calm authority. She looked at him, and in a voice that was steady but soft, she said, "You're mine tonight." The words were strange, but they carried no threat. Ethan's brain tried to process them, but all he could do was stare. Somehow, her tone suggested trust and a purpose he could not yet understand. The figure stepped closer, and Ethan noticed the faint hum of energy around her. She moved toward the console, not touching anything, but somehow the machines seemed to respond to her presence. Ethan realized she was not just a visitor, she was different. She introduced herself as Leora, a representative from an advanced alien civilization. Her mission was urgent. A hostile fleet was approaching, intending to destroy New Aegis before dawn. The humans on the planet were not yet prepared to defend themselves, and she had been sent to ensure their survival. Ethan's expertise with the colony's energy systems would be critical. He felt a rush of responsibility. The entire colony depended on him, and now this mysterious alien was asking for his cooperation. He tried to ask questions, but she shook her head. Words, she seemed to say, were secondary to action. Instead, she gestured toward the main shield control panel, pointing out weaknesses and potential solutions. Ethan noticed she understood the technology in ways that defied his expectations. She could see problems in the system before he even recognized them. Together, they began rerouting energy flows, reinforcing critical points in the shields. Ethan marveled at her speed and precision. Leora moved almost instinctively, guiding him with subtle gestures. He felt an odd sense of connection, a trust that was difficult to explain. It was not just that she needed his help. Somehow, she respected his skills, and that respect was mutual. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. The hum of machinery mixed with the tension outside, where the first distant flashes of alien ships became visible. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the colony. Ethan's heart pounded. The hostile fleet had arrived faster than predicted. Leora remained calm, almost serene, as she studied the approaching ships. "They do not understand human ingenuity," she said quietly, almost to herself. Her words carried both admiration and a hint of amusement. Ethan realized that she had studied humanity in some form and saw potential where others might see weakness. That thought inspired him. If even an alien warrior recognized human capability, maybe they could survive this night. The first wave of attackers fired energy blasts at the outer defenses. Ethan's hands flew over the console as he coordinated with Leora to redirect shield energy. The colony's buildings shuddered as the shields absorbed the impact, but cracks began to form. He glanced at her and she nodded, signaling him to focus on a critical junction. Working together, they managed to reinforce the shield at the last second. Ethan realized that his knowledge, combined with Leora's guidance, could turn the tide. As the battle escalated, Ethan noticed her keen observation. She anticipated attacks, adjusting strategies before he even understood the threats. Despite her alien form and unfamiliar presence, he began to feel a sense of partnership. They were a team. Then a particularly massive blast struck near the central energy hub. Sparks flew, and alarms screamed. Ethan froze for a second before Leora grabbed his arm and pulled him out of harm's way. Her touch was brief but grounding, a reminder that they were in this together. After moments that felt like hours, the attackers withdrew temporarily. Ethan leaned against a console, catching his breath. Leora stood nearby, her expression unreadable, yet there was a faint smile in her eyes. "You are stronger than I expected," she said softly. Ethan felt a flush of pride, mixed with exhaustion. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, he felt a spark of hope. They could survive this night if they continued to work together. Leora then led him through the colony, checking other vulnerable systems. They moved swiftly, avoiding falling debris and unstable corridors. She pointed out dangers he had overlooked, demonstrating her deep understanding of both technology and strategy. Ethan was amazed. Even in the chaos, there was calm in her actions. Somehow she seemed untouchable, yet her concern for him was evident. He realized that the phrase she had spoken earlier, "You're mine tonight," was not just words. It represented her commitment to ensure the humans survived, her recognition of his role, and the bond forming between them in the crucible of crisis. Hours passed in a blur of alarms, flashing lights and energy surges. The twin moons above glinted on the wreckage of the colony's outer structures, painting the scene in surreal violet hues. Ethan's muscles ached, and exhaustion tugged at his mind, but he kept moving, guided by Leora's steady presence. In that moment, he understood that survival depended not only on technology, but on trust, courage, and teamwork. And for some reason, he felt certain that with her guidance, humans could face even the most terrifying threats. Finally, as the first signs of dawn approached, a temporary calm settled over the colony. The hostile fleet had retreated, at least for now. Ethan sank to the floor, leaning against the control console, his body trembling from adrenaline. Leora crouched beside him, barefoot on the metal floor, seemingly unbothered by the night's exertion. Her eyes met his, and for a brief moment there were no words, only understanding. They had survived together, not just through skill, but through mutual respect and shared determination. "You did well," Leora said quietly. Her voice carried warmth now, a subtle recognition of his strength and resolve. Ethan looked at her, realizing that the mysterious presence he had feared hours ago had become a guiding force, a partner in a fight he could never have faced alone. The bond between them was unspoken, but undeniable. He felt a strange sense of pride, Not just for himself, but for humanity, for proving that even on the edge of the galaxy, humans could rise to the challenge when courage and intelligence combined. As the light of the twin moons faded, Ethan understood that tonight was only the beginning. New ages had survived, but the universe remained vast and dangerous. He glanced at Leora, barefoot and calm, and felt a spark of something beyond duty or survival. Something that hinted at trust, alliance, and perhaps the start of a profound connection. And in the quiet aftermath of the battle, he realized that the words she had spoken hours ago were no longer a threat. They were a promise, one that would guide him through the trials yet to come. The dawn had barely broken over New Aegis when Ethan felt the first real sense of relief. The colony had survived the initial wave of attacks, but he knew the fight was far from over. Leora stood nearby, her presence calm and commanding, barefoot on the metal floor as if she belonged to this world as much as any human. Ethan rubbed his sore hands and glanced at the external monitors. The hostile fleet had not retreated completely. Smaller attack ships were weaving through the planet's upper atmosphere, probing the colony's defenses, testing weaknesses. He could feel the tension in the air, but unlike the first night, he was not paralyzed by fear. He had guidance, and he had someone he could trust. Leora's eyes scanned the data streaming across the console. "They are cautious," she said, her voice low but steady. "They are learning from their previous strike. We must anticipate their next move before they strike again." Her words carried authority, but there was also a faint undertone of admiration, as if she respected the humans who had survived so far. Ethan nodded, feeling a surge of determination. It was one thing to survive a sudden attack, but another to fight back strategically. He had grown up on frontier planets, learned to improvise, and now all that knowledge would matter more than ever. Together they mapped out a plan to strengthen the shields and redirect power to vulnerable points. Ethan's hands flew over the console as he implemented the adjustments. Leora's guidance was precise and calculated. She had a deep understanding of both human technology and alien strategies. The way she moved between the console, the maps, and the monitors was almost effortless, a dance of efficiency that Ethan struggled to keep pace with. Yet he did. Somehow, working alongside her, he felt like a part of something larger, something that could survive the universe's most dangerous trials. Hours passed as they reinforced the colony. Outside, the skies shimmered with the faint glint of enemy ships, but the colony's shields held strong under their combined efforts. Still, Ethan noticed something unsettling. Small drones from the enemy fleet were attempting to infiltrate the city's lower levels. Leora's eyes narrowed. "They are trying to sabotage us from within," she said. Without hesitation, she led Ethan into the colony's network of maintenance tunnels, narrow passages that only the engineers and select personnel knew. The air was cold, the lights dim, but she moved with absolute confidence, barefoot, as if the metal floor was natural to her. They arrived at a junction where the drones were attempting to breach the inner systems. Ethan's hands worked quickly to override the automated defenses, while Leora's focus seemed to extend beyond technology. She pointed at weak points, predicting where the enemy would strike next. Ethan followed her instructions meticulously, guided by her expertise and calm confidence. Within minutes, they had disabled the infiltrating drones and secured the critical systems. He looked at her in awe. She was more than an ally. She was a master of strategy, able to anticipate attacks that humans could not even imagine. After the immediate threat passed, they paused to catch their breath. Ethan leaned against the wall, chest heaving, his mind spinning from the intensity of the battle. Leora stood nearby, watching him with a faint smile. "You are adapting quickly," she said. Her tone was soft but filled with meaning. Ethan felt a warmth in her words, a recognition that he had never experienced from anyone before. For a brief moment, the terror of the previous night faded, replaced by something like pride. The humans were capable of greatness, and he was proof of it. But he also knew the enemy would not give up easily. As night approached again, the hostile fleet returned, larger and more organized than before. Ethan felt the familiar pulse of adrenaline, but this time it was mixed with determination rather than fear. He worked tirelessly at the console, rerouting energy, reinforcing shields, and coordinating defenses. Leora moved alongside him, offering guidance and occasional corrections. Together they had become a synchronized unit, a human and alien force that could challenge even overwhelming odds. The enemy ships fired their first salvo, and the colony's shields shivered under the energy impact. Sparks flew along the control panels, alarms blared, and the air smelled of ozone. Yet Ethan felt steady. They could handle this. They had to. During the fight, Ethan noticed something unusual. Leora's focus was not only on strategy, she was watching him. Her eyes followed his movements, almost as if she was measuring his courage, his instincts, his decisions. In a way, it unnerved him, but it also inspired him to act faster, think sharper, and trust his instincts more than ever. The alien fleet did not understand the human mind, the unpredictability, the ingenuity born from survival on harsh planets. That was their advantage, and Leora seemed to understand it better than he did himself. Hours stretched as the battle raged. At one point, an enemy strike hit a nearby structure, sending debris crashing down the corridor where Ethan and Leora were stationed. Without hesitation, she reached out, pulling him out of harm's way. The close call left Ethan shaken, but it also reinforced the bond forming between them. In that moment, words were unnecessary. They shared an understanding that survival required not just skill, but trust, courage, and cooperation. And for the first time, Ethan realized that the phrase she had spoken on their first meeting, "You're mine tonight," was no longer strange or frightening. It was a statement of commitment, protection, and shared purpose. As the night continued, the alien fleet began to falter. Their attacks became less coordinated, slower, and desperate. Ethan and Leora capitalized on every opening, reinforcing weak points and redirecting shield energy with precision. The human engineers and soldiers, inspired by the aliens' presence, pushed themselves beyond normal limits. For the first time, Ethan felt a deep pride, not just in himself, but in humanity. They were capable of extraordinary feats, and with the right guidance, even the most advanced enemies could be challenged. Finally, after hours of relentless fighting, the enemy fleet began to retreat. Ethan collapsed against the console, his body exhausted, mind racing. Leora stood beside him, calm and composed despite the chaos around them. She looked at him with something that seemed like relief and admiration. Ethan realized that this alien warrior, barefoot and graceful, had chosen to trust him, rely on him, and fight alongside him. The connection they had formed was not just about survival, it was about recognition, respect, and understanding. In the aftermath, the colony began repairs. Ethan moved through the wreckage, checking systems and ensuring that no critical damage remained. Leora followed, guiding him with quiet suggestions, observing his work, and occasionally offering insights that saved time and resources. As they worked, the tension of the past 2 nights gradually gave way to calm. The sky lightened as the twin moons faded and the first rays of the sun touched the metallic structures. Ethan looked around at the colony, at the people he had helped protect, and felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. Leora turned to him, her expression softening. "You have done well," she said. Ethan felt the weight of her words. They were more than praise. They were recognition, approval, and a kind of acknowledgement that he had proven himself capable. In that moment, he realized that humans, even on the edge of a distant planet, could rise to challenges that seemed impossible. And he understood that this night had changed him, and perhaps the humans themselves, forever. For a moment, silence fell between them. Ethan felt a strange calmness, a sense that everything had shifted. Leora, barefoot and serene, looked at him. And he felt an unspoken connection, a trust and understanding that went beyond words. The phrase she had spoken when she first arrived now felt like a bond rather than a command. "You're mine tonight," she repeated softly, this time with warmth and recognition. Ethan nodded, understanding her meaning. It was not about possession or fear. It was about partnership, survival, and mutual respect. It was a promise that they would face the universe's dangers together. The colony was safe, at least for now. The enemy fleet had been repelled, and humans had proven their ingenuity and courage. Ethan felt a pride that went beyond personal achievement. He had been tested, and humanity had survived. Leora, standing beside him, was a reminder that survival did not always come alone. It came through collaboration, trust, and courage. And as they looked out over the recovering colony, Ethan realized that this was only the beginning. The universe was vast, and threats would come again, but humans, with their intelligence and determination, were ready. As the first true light of day spread across New Aegis, Ethan knew that he had found more than an ally. He had found someone who understood the value of humanity, who recognized strength and courage, and who was willing to fight alongside them. Leora's presence was commanding, yet comforting, and he felt a sense of unity he had never known. They had survived together, not only through skill, but through mutual trust and understanding. And he knew, deep in his heart, that the bond formed tonight would guide them through all the challenges yet to come. The twin moons faded completely, leaving only the rising sun to bathe the colony in golden light. Ethan turned to Leora, feeling a strange mix of relief, pride, and anticipation. She looked back at him, barefoot and calm, her eyes reflecting the vastness of the universe they had just faced. And for a moment, words were unnecessary. They had survived, learned, and grown stronger together. The night's trials had forged a connection that neither technology nor time could break. And Ethan knew that the phrase, once mysterious and startling, was now a guiding promise. "You're mine tonight."